Yeah, and I say it was my inner voice that
Yeah.
helped me heal my outer voice. And so there's a really important relationship there. As time went on, I had some really interesting experiences that happened. One was that I started seeing mandalas with I would say my third eye. It was like this inner vision where when I would hear music, I would see these mandalas, and somehow I was like, I know that sound is doing that.
Hi, I'm Jackie from Full Circle Magazine. If you want to learn more about how the voice and sound is connected to both healthy grieving and healing, and if you want to learn some practices that you can do on your own today to get started doing that, you will find that here. We love sharing what's new and exciting in the spaces that we're exploring, being aspects of our mortality, such as aging, ailing, end of life, and grief. Those universally experienced yet lesser talked about, almost taboo subjects. We want to share the messages and work of professionals in this space as well, which is what brought us to interview Kimberly Joy Rieli of Singing for Your Soul. I'm really excited to share this interview with you. Kimberly is not only an accomplished singer and musician, healer and holistic voice coach who has worked with clients in over 15 countries, especially female entrepreneurs, to gain confidence, reclaim their voices, and have the impacts that they desire, who also offers a sound healing certification through her Singing for Your Wild Soul, Sacred Sisterhood of Voice Healing. But she also has won many accolades, such as 5 times winner of Best Voice Lessons in Santa Monica, California, and others, which I'm going to put below in the description, as well as where to find her if you, like me, are hoping to learn how to use the voice and sound to heal and become more whole and in your medicine. What is so amazing to me and what makes me want to talk to her is that she was able to turn her own intuition around how to heal herself into a medicine for others. And the fact that she too is so fascinated with Irish keening, like I am. There is so much more to the voice than I think we understand. And I think there's a big reclamation happening culturally right now around the voice that is so connected to healthy grieving and so much more. But without further ado, let's get to the interview with Kimberly. Please let us know what you think. So there was just so much juicy information that came out of this chat that I broke it into 2 parts. Here, I told Kimberly that at our magazine we are researching Irish keening, which is a vocal form of ritualized grief. And I asked her what that might look like in a modern setting and her thoughts on this. I also asked her how she got started with her journey of vocal healing. So in part 1, Kimberly tells us all about how she got into this fascinating field, as well as cymatics, which is the science of sound, her amazing journey of healing trauma based on trauma-based physical and emotional illness through trusting her intuitive sounding practice. She talks about how sound and vocal therapies can help tone the vagus nerve, Nada yoga, which is the yoga of sound, and, of course, she gives us some practices that we can all start doing today.
So I came into voice healing work because I needed it myself. I had, as many of us do, a dysfunctional upbringing, and narcissistic abuse was part of it. And when you're in that environment, one of the things that happens is our voices get taken, right? We're not allowed to speak our truth and to have our own experience. Gaslighting sort of takes away your belief in yourself and your ability to know what you think or feel or what's even true. Kind of
Absolutely.
blurs the lines. So I didn't know that at the time, but that was the environment that I was in, and it was really starting to manifest as extreme anxiety, as well as a number of health problems that I had, the worst of which was cystic acne, and that was the worst because it was so visible on my face. Oh, I'm sorry, let me turn off my notifications. So I had all these health problems and these emotional problems, severe anxiety, depression, PTSD. And by the time I was in grad school, I was performing professionally, but I was just getting worse and worse. And when I would sing, I would have what I now know were anxiety attacks. And I would feel like I was going to pass out. I couldn't see straight. I couldn't breathe. I had very little access to my actual voice at the time. It would sound like this little mouse. And I had nobody who knew how to help me. My voice teachers, their approach was just practice harder, right? Get better vocal technique. And that wasn't the issue, although I didn't know. So then it was compounded, like I was beating myself up on top of it.
Sure.
Very long story short, I eventually had this realization moment where I realized that I had gone into music because it felt good and nothing that I was doing was feeling good. And I needed to start following what felt good to me. And what felt good to me was making weird sounds and rolling around and feeling sound vibrating in my body and playing with sound and breath and just really going outside of academia and getting really primal with it and really meditative. And that started me on the path to healing. That combined with yoga and holistic health practices all just wove together and brought me into this work.
Wow, that's so beautiful how you were able to follow your intuition like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I say it was my inner voice that
Yeah,
helped heal my outer voice. And so there's a really important relationship there.
that's amazing. Yeah, so I mean, do you perform now, or are you mainly just focused on this healing work?
So it's funny that you say that. I have done quite a bit of performing, but what I love the most is doing sound healings for people. And so it is sort of a performance, but it's not, oh, I'm on stage trying to impress everybody. It's, I am holding sacred space for people to have a soul journey and a healing experience, whatever that's going to be for them. And my voice is part of that, woven with these instruments. And it's just my favorite thing. It's what my soul wants to do. And so my husband, he plays out a lot. He's a gigging musician. And when I go to gigs with him, often people will ask me to get up and play and sing, but then it's popular music. You know, I'm singing like whatever, Carole King or whatever. And I finally just realized this is not my thing. Like I can do it, but just because I can do it doesn't mean it makes me happy. And I'm going to set a boundary and I'm not doing it anymore. So yeah, I am mostly doing the sound healing at this point.
Oh wow. So what kind of instruments do you weave into your sound healing? I see a harp behind you and singing bowl.
So I use mostly the crystal singing bowls and harp. I have some Tibetan, the metal bowls that I use, some chimes, have these amazing koshi chimes. They're super magical. So I use those and my voice. I would say my instrument, my main instrument is my voice that I use. Yeah.
Is that something that you just sort of do intuitively in the moment?
Yes, but that was hard won. The ability to do it intuitively took a long time. There was a lot of vocal training and really learning how to embody my voice. And then there was a lot of unwinding of all the vocal training and just trusting. But yes, it is very intuitive. Sometimes I do play songs, especially when I do harp, that have English words or that are sort of pre-planned, like I know what chord patterns I'm going to use, but for the most part, it's improvisation.
Yeah, and I guess once you have a certain level of skill and all of that, it's easier to.
Exactly. Yeah. I try to help people understand this is a process that, you know, you're not just suddenly going to feel super comfy doing this necessarily. Yeah, and you got to play with it. You just get in the mud and just like, you know,
Yeah.
get dirty and make weird sounds and have a good time with it. And that helps it come out more.
Well, awesome. Yeah, so you sort of have like two parts of your work then, it sounds like working one-on-one with people and your sound healing space, that container that you're holding.
I do one-on-ones, I do groups, and then the sound healings. Mhm.
So I would love to learn more about the vocal healing and sort of like just like how did you learn this, and is there any like scientific like evidence that you bring into it? Was it mostly intuitive? Like How did you learn to do this?
Good questions. So in the beginning, it was mostly intuitive. And that was because I didn't have money to pay. And I didn't even know where to go to pay to get this knowledge. I didn't know sound healing was a thing. I just was kind of poking around with myself as the experiment. So as time went on, I had some really interesting experiences that happened. One was that I started seeing mandalas with I would say my third eye. It was like this inner vision where when I would hear music, I would see these mandalas. And somehow I was like, I know that sound is doing it. Never heard any scientific validation, nothing. So come to find out that there is a whole science around sound called cymatics, and it's basically the science of making sound visible.
Mm-hmm.
So some people may have seen those studies where they have like a metal plate and they put sound on the plate, and then you vibrate the plate with a tone, and that tone creates divots in the plate. The sound falls in, and you can see the patterns of the sound, and they're geometric. They're beautiful. It's like sacred geometry. So when I started discovering things like that, I was like, oh, game on. There is science to this. I'm not crazy. There's a reason I'm having these intuitions. So yeah, there is a lot of science around it. The main science that I have just loved working with is quantum physics, cymatics, and the studies around the vagus nerve and healing the vagus nerve. But also Nada yoga is really amazing to weave in with all of that. And Nada yoga is like the yoga of sound. And they really, it's like a philosophy, but it's also a medicine, and it's a process of awakening by using sound. So there are a lot of different pieces I weave in, but usually where I start with people is helping them to have an experience of their own voice, shifting them in a way that all of these sciences show it shifts. So these sciences show that when we make conscious sound, it creates more coherence in our bodies and in our energy field. So it literally reorganizes the structure of the matter and the energy that makes us up, right? So it creates more beautiful patterns, which then leads to more harmony in our bodies and our energy, and that leads to healing. It's not necessarily a linear process, but that's part of it. But there's also the vagus nerve is toned by singing or sounding practices. It's soothed, and when it's soothed or toned, science shows that people are more peaceful, more balanced, and more equanimous when they do practices that tone the vagus nerve. And one of the best ones is toning, which is using your voice to hold out notes repeatedly.
Okay. What are some of these practices that you suggest?
Yeah, so that is my very favorite one. So you can do it by humming, just and you hold it out, and then you take a breath, and then you do it again, and you just do it on a comfortable note for your range. And you do that for like 3 to 5 to 10 minutes. And it's one of the amazing things about sound is it just entrains us into a calm state so quickly. People are shocked. They can't believe how fast it happens. And I recently did my first sound healing booth at a festival, and I've held back from doing it because festivals are noisy, right? And I'm like, oh, it needs to be quiet so people can really receive the sounds. But I got talked into it. I did it, and people dropped in even with all the noise around them. It was amazing. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going to start doing booths now. I don't have an excuse anymore. So I learned something, but it's amazing. And I invite people to try it. Just hold the note out, do that a few times, and see how you feel. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, first of all, doing the booths just sounds so fun too, to just draw in so many different people and different environments. I just have so many questions. So, like, you say that people are amazed at how quickly they feel calm, and I've heard people say that too. Like, I have, like, some friends, we all like to, like, just play around with the guitar or singing, and a lot of my friends are moms, and they'll be like, I was having this hard day, and I just keep forgetting that if I just take a minute and if I just sing, just that vocalizing just helps me to get better. It helps my kids to align and just shifts everything. And it's like this thing that's always there that we can forget we have access to, right?
Yeah, I love that you're hearing that from other moms and that they're noticing that. That's great.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Although I don't know that everybody would, right? If music isn't part of your life. Do you find that the people that are seeking out, your services and doing vocal healing, are a lot of them musicians and singers, or not?
Most of the people who get in touch with me aren't, but they're on a healing journey and they're aware that their voice is an important part of their journey. Often it will be somebody has seen a therapist or a psychic or an astrologer or somebody in the healing arts who has said voice lessons would really help you.
Mm,
Or they've had that intuition and I think there's a real awareness that our voices are shut down and that it's costing us a lot. It's getting in the way of us being free and expressed and healing and happy.
absolutely.
That's a pretty basic understanding that a lot of people have, and so they'll seek out the voice work for that reason. Also because people experience that when they sing, they do feel better, and they want more of that. But the challenge with our society is people have been so shut down around their voices. And so people are afraid to sing. So even if they know that it feels good, they don't want to do it because they don't want to be heard or they don't even want to hear themselves. And that's where I come in and I'm like, okay, let's heal that narrative because there's so much more to your voice than do you belong on American Idol.
That was so great, wasn't it? I just loved talking to Kimberly. Check out part 2 next, where we get even deeper into everything about voice healing and sound, and we get into more practices and philosophy and so much great stuff, really diving into grief as well. So don't forget to like and subscribe to get more videos like this, where we talk about some of the things that we really wish we didn't have to experience in life, but that we are so happy to have each other and to have information to inspire and support us when we do. Peace and love.